Welcome back to the Minds in Motion podcast. I'm your host, Charles Fatumbi. In this episode, I'm joined by Kofi, also known online as Kofi Graham, a Ghana-based travel creator, producer, and entrepreneur who's built an international creative career during a time when traditional job paths were falling short. We talk about his journey pivoting careers in a constrained economy, the realities of surviving and thriving as an African content creator, and the overlooked economic potential of the continent's most valuable assets. This includes its young workforce, tourism, and even its emerging infrastructure. This conversation covers quite a bit, but most importantly, how to turn limited opportunity into leverage and build something global from where you are. Let's dive in.
Way back in final year of university, I was pursuing a science degree course, and the goal was to work in the oil field because Ghana had discovered crude oil in large quantities. They were kind of prospects, and so it was my joy to kind of work in the oil and gas field, make some money, be the big guy that I want to be. And then during final year, I just dawned on me that it would be nice to have like a plan B in everything that you do. So I decided to start working. I got a chance to work with a travel startup. Then I was doing content creation. So I was visiting the airports, writing articles, giving updates, first-hand information to travelers and people visiting Ghana for the first time, especially the airport area. So my boss at that time told me about digital marketing. I kind of figured this is what I could use as a plan B if I don't get a chance to work in the oil and gas field. So I spent time. I took online courses, Google digital skills, and all those things. I actually started working in final years up until when I graduated. So Ghana has this thing, I think Nigeria has this thing, NYSE, where after college, you get paid to like a company, more like a national internship. So the results came and I didn't get the oil and gas or mining field that I actually planned to. I got posted somewhere else in the health space. So I wasn't really happy about it. And the good thing was when I finished university, because of the skills I gained developing content, for this startup, I did some social media management, some little content creation for some small, medium brands, medium enterprise brands, like in Ghana, some salons, some restaurants and all that. So I kind of started to build a CV, a portfolio way ahead of time. So there was a vacancy to work at a PR and advertising firm. And then I put in my application and got me so good. My CV was solid. So they took me in and then I told them, okay, if that's the case, I might as well just do national service with you guys. There was just this big shift from a science guy to somebody working in advertising and communication. So that's where everything started. When I went into this advertising firm, I started to do things on my own, learn a lot of webinars. At that time, so there was Twitter, there was Tumblr. We had so many things. Things were actually evolving. And when COVID happened, I decided to break out into freelancing. So here we are today, from one place to the other, one project to the other.
One of the reasons why this is interesting to me is because people are bucketed into technical fields or creative fields. Once you get that crossroads, you need to pick one. But I like how you started off in the geosciences space, and then you find yourself prior to COVID, but then during COVID, pivoting into more of an advertising professional. So diving into that background, what inspired from your early upbringing you to go into more of the geosciences?
So, in the typical African home, anytime somebody decides to go to school and pursue a career, they're always pushing you to go for the sciences, the law and all that. So I grew up from that kind of home where our parents were pushing us to, pursue the science because they felt those were the best career routes to actually go. And so we've always had that thing. Right after school, I want to be a doctor. I want to be in that kind of line of education. Actually wanted to be a pilot when I was in senior high school. And then you got to a point where I got to realize that being a pilot involved a lot of money, to go to school and get trained. And then I also heard at some part that you can actually be a pilot, but however, it's best to get a degree first and then get back to doing that. So that actually inspired me to go into the sciences. And with my science course, I decided to choose the geography side because I really love studying about the world and all that. And I also felt probably studying geography will help me land into the aviation space. So that didn't happen after high school. The system is so messed up to the point that you don't really get to do what you want to do. And we don't have the kind of infrastructure in Ghana at that time. And we still don't. So I had to just choose something close to the aviation space. And that was geoscience. I mean, when I got in, it was absolutely different from that aviation dream. So I was like, okay, if I don't get to do this, I might as well just get a degree and then maybe pursue that aviation dream later on. And so far, I've not been able to.
So a lot of it was obviously the pressure or expectation from family, and a little bit of it was interest, wanting to be going to aviation. What was your experience like going to university in Ghana?
My university experience wasn't the best. To be honest, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really enjoy the educational part, but then I enjoyed the association part, like making new friends, making new connects. I didn't enjoy the educational part because the whole department, the whole like program that was offered, it wasn't really an interesting program for most people. When we all got in, we realized that it looks like we made a mistake because the career path wasn't so clear, prospects wasn't so clear as to what we can actually do after school. And I tell you for a fact, most of my colleagues that I graduated with, a lot of them have left the discipline from what you actually studied. So you realize that kind of like we were all literally forced to do it because there was no other option than to go for that program. So we've all diverted focus now and nobody's really into that field. So obviously this is due to like the kind of pressure that we had from home. And the Ghana education system doesn't give you a lot of options. So there are not a lot of options where what you get to do, right after college, you can get like a job, you can really get to do what you want to do.
What do you think some of the contributing factors are, specifically in Ghana, that would prevent someone who's worked hard, they've studied hard, they've gotten a degree or pursued a field that is considered a successful one, like one that will set you up for success, but then you're not ready to graduate and no opportunity is available for you? What do you think contributes to that?
So I just generally feel, I think a few factors. One could be financial reasons, and then the other bit is the opportunities available right after college. Because I know maybe comparing to the US or somewhere else, right before you graduate after college, you have like opportunities waiting for you. Even companies coming to scout for roles whilst you are in school. And so before you actually get out of college, you have something waiting for you. I think I had a conversation with some students from like Wharton and Kellogg's. They were like, they have like these career sessions where people are really invested in their career path. So they are really invested in what they decide to do after school. We don't have that kind of system in Ghana. So it's really challenging. People finish school and then they have like a first class, apart and all that, good grades and all that. And then they get to stay at home for like over a year and there's no work and like begins to become frustrating, depression sets in. Then, they begin to lose focus and venture into something else. So you realize that most of us keep our degrees somewhere and we're actually doing something else because the infrastructure is not there, the opportunities are not available for, those fields. So I think it's still like a long, ongoing problem now. We don't really have that system here to actually scout for like, careers or like roles. And even for those that the few opportunities that are even available, they require a certain kind of like experience. And we don't have those institutions or like structures to actually get to coach these young ones or get them to get hands-on experience. So they're able to get the kind of experience that those companies would require. So we don't have that system. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the opportunities. And so people end up doing something else or diverting out of their field. So mostly, I think finances, people cannot afford to, travel overseas, to further their studies, which because, the other countries have the opportunities and then the infrastructure. Finances, we don't have. And then the opportunities to actually get to be in those spaces, we don't have that as well. And that's how it has been. And it's even worse for people who are into like the vocational skills. If we who are yearning to like do white collar jobs are not really getting the opportunity, you can imagine how it's like for people with the handcraft skills. So
What are the industries and occupations that you would say in Ghana, if you go this route, there is bound to be some opportunity or some sort of demand for that skill?
yeah, I think currently mostly people within the business field, communications, law, and then the medical field. So the lab technicians, the doctors, the nurses, all those guys who work in the health sector, they are mostly in high demand. So even countries out of Ghana are even trying to actually, recruit healthcare personnel, to work in their country. So yeah.
Going back to your original point on the pivot, you go through this government's national program that essentially aligns you up with internships. And during that process, is that where you discover the world of advertising and the kind of more of the creative fields?
Yeah, I discovered the opportunities within that field because felt like this is a new space, this is a new world. I didn't get to know about this while I was in college. So this is a new space for me to actually, get to learn something from the scratch. So I got that when I worked at this PR advertising firm. So if I could actually better my skills and get to actually learn from start, I could actually become something. And it paid off, honestly.
What were some of those skills, particularly that gravitated towards you?
Yeah, I think more of the writing, communications, like building decks, crafting strategies, that bit, social media marketing, digital marketing, all those things. Those were like the skills that were actually like took on like in those early years. And I still use them today. Those have helped me, work on like award-winning programs, like projects, campaigns, and all that. At that time, I had worked with a lot of, brands. I've done a lot of like brand work, social media marketing work, digital work over the years. And I had built a portfolio, an extensive portfolio, like from hospitality, to FMCG, to corporate and all that. So I figured I could actually be on my own, self-employed, get to take on clients as and when. And during that time, we didn't have a lot of freelancers within the space. We didn't have a lot of like people like myself who were like multiple skills, have like extensive portfolios and we're able to do stuff. We didn't have like AI, the stage at which the digital world is now. We didn't have that back then, like pre-COVID, post-COVID era. So like I was in high demand. Like I could quit a job today and the next day I'm hired like on a project. It was that fast, it was that easy. I had the skills, I had the portfolio was good, everything was good. And those were really good times. Like those were really good times. I think I made my most money during COVID. That was the first time I actually made a lot of money.
So I'm curious to know, what sort of shock in your system did you experience when you decided to pivot outside of typical industry into freelancing? This could be like managing your schedule, finances, and just balancing expectation of getting gigs and not knowing what's next.
Yeah. So for me, the challenge was the financial bit, getting consistent flow of income coming in as a freelancer, especially getting like consistent gigs. So I don't know if this is globally, but it kind of feels like in the African setting, we haven't attained the level of, the West. So the US where we have brands, concentrating here. There's a big market for our kind of work. We don't have that here. And so work comes in once a while. You are in 2 months, no work. You have to find something else to do. So that's when freelancing becomes challenging because now you have to pay bills, you have to sort people out, you have to buy things and all that. So we don't have that demand here. We don't have that kind of market here. And it's really challenging. Those are some of the challenging parts of freelancing because you expect work to come in all the time and then it doesn't come in. And sometimes even when you have retainer clients, something happens along the way and then they pull out of and so the uncertainty of the whole thing, not getting to know what might happen in the future. So it gives you a lot of pressure. You're not really sure of what is going to happen in the next stage. You might sign off a contract 2 days and then the next month they were like, oh, we can't continue because funders are not coming in, blah, blah, blah. And then everything just comes down. Back in those days when we were in high demand, I wasn't really even doing a lot of marketing. I wasn't really selling myself short. It was mostly referrals. So you go for networking events, people get to know this is what you do. And so at the back of your mind, at the back of their minds, that, okay, this is what Kofi does. So anytime somebody needs this kind of services, Kofi is the go-to person. And that's how it has been like for years.
And talk to me about some of the clients that you work with. Like, what industries do they span? And then also, are they local to Ghana or are they kind of spread across the world?
Yeah. So when I started off, I used to work with mostly local brands until the point where I started to get international recognitions. I'll be somewhere and then brands will reach out from like the UK, from the States, wanting to work with you. So majority of my clients came from the US, UK, like, the West. So it was good. I mean, they were paying good money. The recognition felt good because it would be good to have like international like brands, like global brands on your portfolio rather than working with local brands. I had an early start working with like global brands from the onset. So brands within the advocacy space, climate action, a bit of hospitality, a bit of lifestyle, production projects, photo projects, writing assignments and all that. I've done most of those in the past. At the beginning stages, it was more of the social media marketing up until I decided to push more into the creative side.
When brands reach out to you, is there sort of a vetting or interview process since you're a freelancer, or is it just assumed by the work that you put out that, okay, we need you to come in, do this, and it's on a term basis or duration, and then after that, we're done with the contract?
So it's in two folds. For those that came through referrals, there wasn't any kind of interview because they kind of trusted the referrer's word. And so they got to know about what I do and then they saw it. It was clear. Kofi can do this based on XYZ. So it was a yes from the onset. But for those that had to apply, those required more like interviews. And then at that time, the interviews were always a yes. But now the rejections are just being real. Yeah.
Okay, I want to pivot into your personal brand, right? Because, like I said before, it's very clear you're a global citizen. You travel the world, you share stories, and you expose different cultures and different parts of Africa and even beyond that most people don't get a purview into. There's also an element to your story about social media because you've positioned yourself as a public figure. You are speaking about your expertise publicly for people to consume. How did that brand of Kofi become more public?
So it began to happen when I think my experiences and seeing the opportunity that comes with working within this field. Because obviously I work in digital and I'm exposed to, the YouTube, the IGs and all that. And people really believe in my personality. So I think it dawned on me to actually now start, share my stories across social. And God being so good, I actually start. If I wish I started earlier, so I can be some of the big guys now. But I mean, it's not too late. Till now, I so appreciate the fact that I took that step because it's paying off now.
What were some of your early storytelling approaches or ways of presenting yourself online that helped you build trust and even engagement with your audience?
So I think for me, I really wanted to get to know people for who they were. So if I follow somebody, I send a quick DM, will say, hi, I really love what you do, work, blah, 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 and all that. Can we connect? Can we be, work on this project or become friends, something? So the relationship kind of starts from there. And so we haven't met in person yet, but we've already put a rapport online. And so when we get to meet in person, it just continues from there. I was trying to build a community, because if social media platforms are not shut down today, what do you have, to hold on to? So that bit it really helped me in so many ways.
I know you just recently came off of a trip to Germany. That was in collaboration with Brussels Airline.
So it was Brussels Airlines, and then the main sponsor was the delegation of German industries, more of like an institution that kind of connects German companies to Ghanaian businesses and entrepreneurs. So they currently working on an initiative where they pair German companies with young students who are into plumbing, carpentry, roofing, and all those things, because those skills are in high demand in Germany. German companies are always looking out to hire talent in Ghana. So they wanted us to visit these guys, this Ghanaian youth in Germany, to see how living and working in Germany is like. So Brussels Airlines actually sponsored the tickets and they wanted us to do like a video to just share our experience. And in fact, they gave us the opportunity to actually be in the cockpit, for the first time. And so it was more of like a full circle for me because I really didn't get to be the pilot that I wanted to be, but I actually got a chance to, sit in the cockpit, land plane for the first time. And it was exceptional.
Was there any sort of like agency or partnership on the Ghana side that was sending you, or was this strictly from the German side seeking out Ghana creators to come?
So it was the German side. So before even this trip happened, they actually scouted about 20 content creators from Ghana. And of course, I was selected, and then we had to actually produce a film in order to get to do this trip. So they wanted to select just 3 of us, top 3. So we did this film, and then it was like a long journey. We actually did this video, like there was a screening, and the judges had to decide. We all came to present our videos on the stage at the embassy and all that, and then they decided and they judged. And then it happened that I came out first, my video, and then automatically meant I'm going to travel to Germany and then get to tell the story. So they wanted to prove that if we select these guys, they can actually produce the kind of work we wanted them to produce. We're in 5 cities. We did Cologne, we did Lemgo, we did Bochum, we did Dusseldorf, and we did Berlin. The main objective is the young guys who have gone to live in Germany to work with these German companies. We went purposely for the trip to speak to those guys, learn their story, get to know how it's like living and working in Germany. For the first time. Obviously, they got selected, in Ghana. They went through like a selection process. They had to learn the German language and they now got to work with the company. So our job was to go there, interview these guys, get to see for ourselves how it's like, how are they living and working in Germany. So, and produce a video for that part. And then they give us opportunity to actually meet with some of this, people within our field. So media, broadcasting, content, and PR. So we could also get to learn, and maybe in the future, maybe get work from these guys or, boost some partnerships. So it wasn't only like, go film videos, come back and post. It was more of like, They're giving us opportunities, meeting these guys. They give us some pure packages. It was a fully packed like trip itinerary, and got to meet ambassadors, sit in meetings, get to hear like a lot of these conversations and all that.
It kind of reminds me of early in our conversation, there's this struggle of dealing with the Ghanaian political system and the infrastructure that is not really sustainable for people to come out of college and find work, essentially. And you have programs like these. Fast forward, you're now in a career where another country is giving you the opportunity to come and see what apprenticeships or internships or what the fields are like of working in that specific country. Do you feel conflicted in wanting to see the future of Ghana and the economy of Ghana grow versus, hey, Ghana is not providing what I need, so I need to go somewhere else to get that work or find that opportunity?
I had to struggle with this because it kind of felt like I was going against my purpose, because I wanted to, tell stories from Africa. I always been the person that didn't champion like migration for like green pastures. I'm never the kind of person who champions like leave your country, go find work elsewhere. So this was a bit challenging for me, because it was like, okay, Kofi, you are the one who was not preaching about migration and all that, but now you are telling us young people can go to Germany and get work to do. Why not the other way around? So when we actually met with the main sponsor, and then we got to ask questions and make suggestions. So I told them, in my suggestion, I told them, what would it cost instead of getting these guys, to leave Ghana and go and work in Germany? Why don't we build the systems here? You guys find a way to build the systems here, and then they get to stay here, and work and better the economy. Or if anything, they could just come and work and then come back to their country, rather than, leaving Ghana and then going to Germany to work, for these companies. Most of us actually were battling that side, because it felt like a bit of like brain drain. Like Ghana was just giving off its skilled people to Germany, and then you're not getting anything in return. And so I really got to question myself. Because more of like, we're actually pushing the agenda to leave the country and then find work, in the West. So I really thought about that question so much.
I can imagine how it can be conflicting, but I also think you you have an opportunity in your hands too to be able to serve as a researcher. You're going to these spaces, you're getting invited to these spaces. You can scope and look around, okay, this is how they're doing things. And then come back, you can now be an advocate, not necessarily to duplicate what's going on over there, but to see and pull, okay, this is how a system operates that actually works. Are there bits and parts of this that we can implement in Ghana here across the economy and the education system and, all over the board? And I think that's a powerful position to be in. How many countries have you visited across African continent?
I think so far should be about either 12 or 14. I think 14 so far. Every country is top. Like, I can't rate one country over the other. Like, every country is unique in this way. I had like a great experience in Uganda, South Africa, Kenya, Sao Tome, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Togo, Benin. All these countries offered me an experience. So
And that's one of the reasons why I was even drawn to your brand and your content, was because you were shedding light or providing exposure to different African nations in a way that I feel isn't like savior. A lot of content around African countries is like, come and help. Why were you drawn to travel to these different African countries? Because even within Africans ourselves, there's a fear of leaving what you know.
yeah.
So I think my question is two parts. What drew you to that?
Mhm.
And how did you combat this narrative that anything outside of your own circle of Ghana is dangerous?
Okay, so for me, I felt Africa had the stories. Okay, Africa is the future. Africa is the place where most of these brands come to do their shoots, come to do their films, get inspiration from. So if there's no Africa, the other parts of the world do not exist. Our forefathers actually left the shores of this country through very inhumane, circumstances, and then they built the Western world. So I think for me, Africa would be and continue to be that place, that gem of the world. And so for me, it's to be able to find a way to highlight the positive things in Africa through, the storytelling, getting to, highlight places that don't get a lot of spotlight. So that is it for me. Ever since I began traveling out of Ghana, like my mind began to open, I began to feel more confident and realize that there's just more to the world. Ghana is not only the country that exists in Africa. There's just a lot to actually get to know. And people who also begin to travel tell me, Kofi, what you say is actually true. Like, you realize that it's either we are in deficit, we are way back in certain things. The other advanced countries, people are doing things like people have advanced in so many ways, like banning plastics, good roads, system of living, transportation system, and all. They realize that when you travel out of your country, you realize that some other countries are actually doing way better, and you can actually learn for them. So it's so sad. Our government travels all the time. They get to see these things and they don't come back home and implement them. That's another sad story for another day, however. But then for me, traveling to these countries, it's about just getting to see the opportunities that exist, out of my home, and also getting to appreciate what is happening in these countries. And then the good thing is you realize that each of these countries is really related in a way. It could be the food, it could be the culture, it could be anything. You realize that Africa is actually fun. And when you get to visit a lot of African countries, because you see we are related through either it could be culture, it could be food, it could be way of dressing, something unique that stands out. And that is really fascinating to know. You get to relate, okay, this is how Ghana actually does this. This is how we prepare our soup. This is similar to the way my grandmother does this thing. So you only get to see this when you travel to these African countries and realize, okay, this is actually happening. There's a lot to be exposed to, um, rather than just being where you are, just staying there. So there's a need to actually move out and see what's out there, come back, learn, make it better, or adjust things in your home. Yeah.
I want to get into some of the specifics. Like when you're going to these countries, some of the 12 or 14 that you listed, you're on the ground, you're observing what's happening around you. What are some of those things that you feel like, oh, this country is doing this really well? I want to bring this back to Ghana, or this is not really ethical, or this is not really going as it should. These are some improvements that this country could make? Like, what are those observations? If you have any specific examples that you could give.
There are so many like transport system, the prices of, commodities, prices of food, clothing, getting around, like the quality of the basics. My country, we don't really, when it comes to like basics like electricity, internet, water, healthcare, we kind of fall short. And you realize that when you go to these countries, those basics are like literally next to nothing. So when you get it, like, oh, it feels so good. You guys are enjoying so much. You guys have gone way ahead of us. My country don't have this. Guess okay, my country is actually way back when it comes to like healthcare, when it comes to like infrastructure or like transportation. When you get out there, you see that okay, countries have actually gone way ahead of us, even with the basics. What can we do to get better? And every time I come, I actually make complaints like restaurant people need to give us good service. Our tour guys need to stop chasing the bag and do their work. They need to look up like dress good, love the job and all that. There are so many things. There are so many things areas to talk about. Like realize that back home people are always about the money, but when you go elsewhere, people love what they do. They are committed, and so there's value. Your money like gets you something. Like it's worth the price.
Is there any nation that you say is, for the most part, doing things pretty well or on a trajectory that is upward?
I think that would be South Africa. Looking at the whole of Africa, I think South Africa makes the cuts. They make the cuts. Even though people still complain about safety and all that, I'm still going to give it to them because I've had the chance to visit 5 of their 9 provinces, and every province gives you a reason why SA is who they are. Like the intentionality, the investment that has really gone to some of the infrastructure and things. They're really intentional about their tourism, intentional about their marketing, their filmmaking. I mean, cross industries. So I think they deserve the hype they get. And when you go, you actually see it for yourself. As opposed to like somewhere like Ghana that, oh, we are like making noise about Ghana. We come here and service is so bad and all that. You go elsewhere and you realize that people haven't even made noise about SA much because there's actually good stuff happening here we don't get to hear about. And so it's worth the hype. They actually deserve that and they've gone way ahead of us. For example, when it comes to like, simply trying to even try and find a location to actually do like a shoot or a campaign. You go to SA, it's an abundance. Like there's the space, there's infrastructure. You come to Ghana, you struggle to actually put a team together or like try to find a location to do a shoot. You're gonna go through a lot of hassles. So there are so many things you can actually even argue with. Like there are spaces. Like if you want a space to meet somebody like in a park in a quiet space, they have it.
Hey, got it. It's actually funny that you say that because as an outsider who is not Ghanaian, I even think that Ghana has done such an incredible job with their tourism board and like attracting foreigners, particularly in like December. Obviously, that's like a time that everyone comes back home. But the experience in Ghana feels branded. It feels welcoming. I guess you could say relatively organized as compared to other countries. But again, that is from an outside perspective. Being a local, what is your perception on Ghana's kind of transformation in terms of the tourism? Do you even feel like it's an improvement from what it was before?
I think we are way back. I'm saying this because when it comes to like our tourism, it's always about the partying and merrymaking, which happens at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying this because it's bad because when it happens during that time, prices affect everybody. There's a hike in transport fares, bill ride apps, everybody's charging like exorbitant fares. For example, let's say a trip of about 30 minutes is supposed to cost like $20. In December, it's gonna cost $100, which is absurd. You know, it doesn't make sense because I visited like very touristy African countries like Zanzibar, Kenya, and others, and you realize that anytime you're in the country, it's an all year, destination for tourism. So tourists are always coming in, places are crowded. You realize that when you get to be in this country, the prices for locals are separate from prices from tourists. So locals don't get affected by the influx of what is happening. But in my home country, everybody gets affected until the last person leaves Ghana December, then things began to get normal. And I feel we have made so much noise about this merrymaking thing, and we've neglected the places that actually deserve, spot like gas tourism, like lesser known places. Stop pushing Accra. Like, let's get people to visit other regions. Let's expand, the scope. My country is actually not making effort to actually highlight the most important things. So it's always Ghana in December, and that is it. And the sad thing is, we can't even compare our partying, even to even Joburg or Cape Town. Their countries even doing way better when it comes to their nightlife scene. Listen, we are nowhere close. Come on, we are nowhere close. Yeah, Ivory Coast, like, listen, Nairobi, those guys, they are top guys. So, people say Ghana dirty Zimbabwe. Like, there's nothing here. What are people come to do? There's nothing here. Please go elsewhere. You're just gonna give us traffic, chaos. Prices are gonna affect. And something happened last year when most of this, diaspora came down to, party and all that. When people like bought stuff with their debit cards and all that, they go back to the country and they did like callbacks. So literally, yeah, that happened. That happened. Especially the UK people, like it happened. Like people, businesses, like were getting like, chat, how do you call it, returns and all. I don't know how they call that thing. When the bank kind of like refunds, yeah, it happened.
They'll go to a local vendor, a local shop store, pay with their card. When they return back to their country after all the celebration,
Yeah,
calling their bank to get the charge back.
yeah.
Wow.
That's what's happening. So I'm like, what are you guys coming here to do if this is what your intention is? Are you coming to connect to your roots, make peace, make you friends, both connect, and all that? Slowly over the years, Ghana Dirty December has migrated from that to now to just the partying and bits, and that is it. And I don't think in the long term it's going to be sustainable because at the end of the day, it doesn't help the locals in a way. So it's just coming to party and burdening locals and then leaving their countries. I'm not really seeing the tourism bit about this Dirty December thing. So in my opinion, I would even cancel it and focus that attention to do something better. That will help the country in the long run, to be honest. Yeah.
No, that's a great observation. And I think even just you saying that is powerful because not a lot of people think about that when they're going. Hopefully, when they hear this, they can rethink about some of their decisions, about even when they're flying to Ghana, the intention behind it. And then, like you also mentioned, which I think is valuable, exploring there's more to Ghana than just Accra. Like, I think that's very, very important. I understand you've started a business, right?
Yeah. So over the years, I've realized there's a bit of deficit within the creative talent space. So I told myself when I had the opportunity to actually go do a masterclass in Kenya, I think why don't I give back this, this knowledge sharing and to raise, creative talent. Okay. So it's a two-part kind of like enterprise for me. Scouting talent, training them, giving them the skills and knowledge I've garnered over the years, right from college to working with brands, campaigns, and all those things, industry expertise, for example, punctuality, attitude, communication, and all that, being on time. This kind of values and skills, not every African creative have. And I've had the opportunity to actually experience or build this over the years. And nobody taught me. So for me, it's about giving this knowledge out to African creatives. So if there's a project, I'm expecting this level of excellence on this project. I'm expecting this level of, commitment and all that. So when it comes, it's a win. We kind of keep the hallmark running through. So that's what I'm actually building, and getting the opportunity to actually travel to these countries to do training workshops and all that. It just getting me to actually work in that space. So I feel it's high time I put that thing up. And then, I mean, on the brighter side, find a way to build a consistent stream of income, because I think I've been doing this for years now. And I think it's time to just package that and then set up something. So in the long term, I really want to open up spaces where get funding coming in because of the training entrepreneurship thing, and to actually get more people into their space so they become creatives of global impact and purposeful creatives for the future.
That's a powerful mission because you've set the blueprint,
Yeah.
extracting the value out of that and then packaging it up so that people can also learn is a great model.
Yeah.
It brings me the topic of monetizing. How has that relationship been with working with brands and also getting paid what you're worth?
So working with brands, monetizing your craft, sometimes it's so difficult trying to, call certain shots, because I live in a certain part of the world, in Africa specifically. So I know my colleagues in the States are getting paid more for equal work that I can actually get similar money for. So let's say they're hiring for like a content creator to do like a 4 minute or 30 seconds video ad. Somebody in the States might be making like $3,000 for just that 30 seconds. While somewhere in Africa, they're paying you like $500, which is like an insult, because I mean, I can actually do that even more. Anytime brands reach out, the thing is, I have the expertise, I have the space, I have the opportunities. I've done most of these things over the years, and I know they have the budgets. For me, it's just push that bit. The reason why you're reaching out to me is because you can actually afford, you believe my work, you trust what I can do, you trust my expertise, you trust the years of experience I've garnered over the years. So you can actually do this. So if you're coming to me, then you can actually, afford to actually cover the cost of this. So I really push that in their face. Brands, African cases love to sell themselves short. So I always love to preach the fact that don't sell yourself short. You can actually charge that fee. This is what you are worth. Go for it. You know, because doing that actually sets you apart from just anybody. Anybody can just come and say, "Oh, he came and then he gave us this," and then, because for me, I think for me, it's about the thought process, and then not only about the results. What happened during the process of getting you that video?
Yeah, it's something that I've thought a lot about. When you think about the sub creator economy within Africa, I always wonder how are creatives being treated from these global brands? And even before it gets to the point of reaching out to an African creative, is there even interest? Like, sometimes there's this perception or a narrative that's going around. I've heard this from just various conferences in the US where people will say, oh, there's no buying power in Africa.
Yeah.
I don't want to market my product. If I'm a global brand, I don't want to market my product in Africa because who's going to buy it? So therefore, I even reach out. Do you have any thoughts about how to combat that narrative?
Yeah. So I always keep telling them Africa is the future. Okay, we have the talent. We can equally be as good as the Western world. It's just sad that they're not looking here when it comes to, some of these opportunities. When you go to Germany, when we even had the opportunity to actually meet this agency, they were saying it like the brands are all here, work is coming in, people get booked and busy almost every day. We don't have that system here because we don't have the brands coming in here. And I think to some extent, it's not even our issue. It's more of even about the legislation and more of like policymakers' job to actually make it favorable for these brands to actually come in. For example, TikTok monetization is not in Ghana. Friends who had to like relocate to the UK and US have to create new accounts because they cannot monetize their Ghana account. So YouTube is monetizing, yes. And so you can imagine we have to find other ways, find other means and ways, methods to actually build income. If it's not a paid partnership, it's not a sponsored work, what are you doing, as a creative? It's crazy.
The only way as a creator to make money is if a brand directly reaches out to you.
Which is out to, yeah, collab posts, talk about us, awareness, visit our space, Airbnb, whatever it is, hotel, whatever it is. That's when you get to make money. So platforms are not really paying us. YouTube is the only platform that Africans can monetize. Yeah. It's a sad
Wow.
truth.
Wow. I mean, and yeah, it's interesting because YouTube has there's a whole initiative. I think if you look up Alex
Yeah.
Okosi, this guy really, really helped push tech infrastructure to African nations. And he was also the guy who helped bring MTV over
Okay.
to African nations. So it's crazy that YouTube is the only brand or company that has infrastructure set up to pay African. That is crazy.
I would even get half of the brands even trend interest here. Like most of the brands, travel brands, lifestyle brands, fashion brands. We don't even get a lot of things here. Apple doesn't even ship to Ghana in the first place. So I don't think Apple ships to Africa. I do. A lot of people use Apple phones and all that. So Africa just left on its own to figure its way out. And so yeah.
Wow. That one really hit me.
Yeah. Half of the opportunities people in the West get, we don't at all.
And it's crazy because for examples like yourself, you are a full-time creator. This is your livelihood. And so the fact, it's almost as if you were in these spaces, imagine how you would blow. Like even LinkedIn, is there any sort of monetization?
LinkedIn, you don't monetize. Nothing.
Interesting. Is it just the brand that is preventing that? Or is there a perception, or is there like something on the African nation infrastructure side that makes these brands scared to even set up that whole ecosystem?
Honestly, it could be possibly maybe due to policy making. I don't know. Honestly, it could be due to so many reasons. It could be so many reasons because we actually had a Twitter office in Ghana. We had a whole Twitter office in Ghana. They had like Twitter, people from Ghana, Nigeria. We had like a whole Twitter office in Ghana, and then they pulled out. I think that's when they sold Twitter. Elon Musk bought Twitter, and then they canceled everybody's contract. We actually had the Twitter like thriving in Ghana. Doing partnerships and all that. I think so far that was the only closest thing that we've ever had. Yeah.
Okay. With that note in mind, and just kind of closing, any advice or tips, especially because you're starting a brand that's particularly aligned to this industry, any tips for up and coming creators or anyone who might be listening who are Africans based in Africa, who are also in the similar space? Like, how can they thrive in this industry, especially when you're not really set up to succeed? You can see the fact that you just gave, not many systems are set up for you to even get paid. So what advice would you give to any creatives, content creators who are trying to have a global footprint, who are also trying to monetize their content or their brand? What advice would you give them?
I think for me is to say to be so good that they have no thoughts about choosing you for a project or working with you. Be so good to that extent that you stand out from the noise. You are true to what you know, and then find a way to get into work with these brands over and over again. And then stay true to what you know and keep learning. Don't feel you've arrived. Nobody has arrived. Like, we keep learning the creative space. So yeah.
Nice. And how can people find you?
So I'm available on across social media. I have a website as Kofi Gram on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Kofi Dotse, website, kofidotse.com. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kofi. This was an excellent conversation. I learned a lot, and yeah, I'm excited to see what you do next.